I'm here with Liza and Mimi at the Australian Catholic Anti-Slavery Network, ACAN, here in Melbourne. Now, Liza and Mimi, why don't you start, Liza? Tell us about ERM, where you're from.
Yes, we are from ERM, Environmental Resource Management Consulting. We're about 8,000 people around the world. We only focus on sustainability consulting, and I'm a principal in the human rights team. And
Yeah, I'm a consultant in the same human rights team. I also work a bit in corporate sustainability, ESG assessments, and yeah, all of that.
Fantastic. Now, I think one of the questions that we're asking so many of the interviewees here tonight is, people have this perception that modern slavery doesn't exist here in Australia. What's been your experience? I'll start with you, Liza.
yeah, I think it's very different what maybe people will think a modern slavery means or the idea of what it actually is. I think that slavery has changed, modernized. We have seen it with our clients that perhaps they have supply chain working in other countries, developing countries, and they don't have a certainty of how those employees have been treated. It could be like lower wages, salary. It could be under really poor conditions working. So that's now what we're talking about, the new modern slavery.
Yeah. And Mimi, tell us about some of the, let's say, riskier industry sectors here in Australia.
I would argue it's a lot about palm scheme workers, manual labour out in rural areas, people who come into the country for a visa to just work here. They're often held in like bondage labour and they can't really get out. It's like people might take away their passports, and this very much happens in Australia as well. And yeah, cleaning services, for example, as well. A lot of migrant workers, and as we all know, there are heaps of migrant workers in Australia, and they sort of enter riskier areas, and they make themselves vulnerable by just being a migrant worker here, not having the same rights as other Australians, I think.
Great points. Now, can I ask, these days with increased visibilities of supply chain, is that making, I suppose, your roles a bit easier so there's more technology, more visibility, or is it a bit difficult because more people need to report?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. There's more visibility, yes, but as well, we need data, quality data. Many of the organizations, even the parent companies, they don't have that quality data. Even though the suppliers in like developing countries, they don't have that quality data or data at all. So that actually makes our heart a little bit difficult to analyze and assess the level of risk. Yes.
Yeah, great points. And Mimi, what would be some of the advice for companies, especially if they're SMEs or medium companies, who may not have to meet the modern slavery reporting threshold, but as part of their supply chain, tenders, RFQs, they want to get involved? What advice would you give them?
Uh, it's a really good question. I would always say work with your suppliers, talk to them. If you don't have to meet the threshold, you don't need a supplier code of conduct, for example, but I would say you should still engage with your suppliers, make sure that you educate them on modern slavery and that you can outrule the risk that they might expose themselves to, and make just sure that there is no modern slave in their supply chain. And to add on Liza's point earlier, technology and your question earlier, technology is not always the answer to it. It's a very people-heavy based business. Sometimes it's being there, listening, and showing presence on site, giving people the feeling that they can report incidences, that they can report risks they're exposed to. With technology, is often very removed. The grievance mechanism they are put in place, they normally don't really work the way they should work. People are afraid to report because the risk is not taken away from them to be deported, for example, if they are migrant workers in Australia, for example. So it's important to give them the feeling that they can raise their voice, that they are safe, and that's not limited to company size. So SMEs, smaller companies, they can all sort of be there for their supply chain and for people working within their supply chains.
Such important points, Mimi. And I think, Liza, that's the real value of ACAN and what they do. They create awareness. There's an avenue for people to reach out and get guidance and support.
Yes, totally. And I think one of the main points here is productivity and procurement and supply chain. I think is very important because it's the base, the ground of our business. And if a business thrives, the community thrives, and therefore the business flourishes. So yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. Have you had a chance to meet a lot of new people here tonight?
Yeah, I mean, we just started, but there's really a lot of like-minded people and very passionate about what they do. Yes.
Yeah. And, I think it's great that they get to know both of you as well and what ERM's doing.
What we are doing. In our human rights, and we do a lot of modern slavery assessments, and we are sort of advising our clients on how to do better, how to exactly work with their supply chains, how to improve and like go against the risks they expose themselves to by having global supply chains, and that's sort of what we're doing.
Very passionate about it.
Oh, I can tell. I think that's the real common denominator here tonight that I can see all around us is that there's absolute passion and real determination to make a positive change. And I think it's really more of a movement than a networking night. It's just there's so much great energy and optimism in the room.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thanks, Liz.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Lynn.
Thank
Ciao,
you.
ciao.